In this video we strike oil, I start a healthy diet regime, and I may have fluffed the gear change. Hello, welcome to Tweed. In this video I'm continuing work on my Adler MB250. Yeah, and for those that have said, yeah, Adler is German for eagle, so eagle MB250. Now, if you didn't see the previous video, we had a problem with a float, had a hole in it, and it was flooding, causing all sorts of issues, and diagnosed that and managed to find a new float, which I ordered. So we'll be popping that in and seeing how that goes. Right, down to the bench. So the new float has turned up, and yeah, I think I ordered it Thursday, Friday, turned up on a Monday, which was good, and it's sort of the same height top to bottom, bit more rounded on the corners, so it looks like it's a tiny bit shorter, but I think in the grand scheme of things it's about the same volume. It has the holder at the bottom for the float needle, so just going to sort of pop it out and swap it over. I measured the diameter and it's 32 millimeters, although it looks sort of smaller because it's shiny. It is the same diameter, so I think this will do the job quite nicely. So all I've done with a screwdriver, just ease those two wires apart, and the needle has come out. It's got a little shoulder there for those wires to sit on. It's just a case of inserting it into the new one. Now, do I poke it through? No, we'll poke it through this way. See if I can do it so you can see. Press it on there like that. Hopefully ease the wires apart. Yeah, I need a wider blade. Hang on a minute. And lean on it so I don't damage my there we go, and then push it all the way through to the recess. There we go. That needle is now home and float ready to go back on the bike. Yeah, still petrol coming out of this one. It's been 4 days. Okay, pop that back in there like so. Put the lid back on, lining up the needle there, like so. Right, there we go, it's all back on. So, need to connect the fuel back up. Got the pipes here, but I am going to put on, tuck it under the tanker, sort of miniature fuel filter, just to catch some of that rubbish that gets through the mesh filter on the filter bowl there. There's not a lot of room for a filter to go on here without having horrendous kinks and bends. Mind you, nowadays the less rubber fuel pipe we got, the better. But there is going to be a problem. I'm not going to be able to get onto there. Get on there. It's not ideal because I've got to take this off to get the cover on, but at least it's got a filter on. I'll just play with the length of that hose, just cut it down a bit. The nice thing about the hot weather is these hoses actually slide on and off nice and easy. Yeah, get that one done. There we go. Filter installed. I'll make it known now, I don't like them. Don't like the look of them on motorcycles. Are ugly looking things, but if it stops rubbish going in, it'll have to do. Okay, stopped. The float's working. Okay. Next thing will be road test. Well, feed the dog first, because it's that time again. Isn't it, doofus? Hmm? Dinner? Eh? So with the carburetor back together, operating as it should, and a fuel filter on there for sort of belt and braces, it's time to do some shakedown mileage on it. So take it out for a ride and see if we get any problems. Yes. You catch up with me after I'd spent good sort of 10-15 minutes pulling the carb apart, checking the primary jet, bumping it up and down hills, getting it running, and off we set again. So here we go. Right, here we go eventually. Doesn't like starting when hot after a little run, so I suspect the crank seals are a little bit tired. Probably alright when it's sat there for a bit with the oil going around the seal, just providing a good seal when you start it in the morning, because it always starts fine. Bit of a climb here, so leave it in third. So we'll go for breakfast, and I think we'll park it in the trees in the shade, so hopefully when I come back out I won't spend 45 minutes taking the carb apart, plugs out, checking the spark, all that kind of nonsense. You do on a 2-stroke. I was planning on going down to Sammy Miller on Sunday, but I don't know, it's a long way, and if it plays up, you're a long way from home, so I'll have a think about it. We'll go the short way. Gear change is, what's the word? Irksome, I think. struggle. Trots along all right. There we go. We'll park it under the trees to cool down. And it won't be so embarrassing if it don't start, rather than parking it outside the cafe. Neutral? There we go. Well, there you go. Right, let's go and have a breakfast. And a very nice breakfast it was too, and always is at the South Warnborough Cafe if you're ever down that way. So we sort of trotted back to the bike, tried to start it, and it was very unenthusiastic about starting. So popped it into gear, pushed it up the road, managed to get it running. Yeah, every time I put a camera on it, issues happen. So I'd put a camera on it on the frame, looking at the front wheel, so you could see the funky old suspension working. You know, you could get an idea of that working. So yeah, you'll see that now. Yes, all very interesting, but we'll cover it again on a proper ride video, you know, when we've sorted out, ironed out all the creases. Yeah, what you couldn't pick up there was it was only running on one cylinder. It wasn't obvious straight away when I got it running. It's only when, yeah, busy road, got onto the road and riding down the road thinking, this really isn't running right. It was really underpowered. So I sort of checked that the fuel was on, choke was off, checked all those kind of things. Just a real struggle to get it to go along. It'd sort of do about 30 mile an hour, could get up to 40 with a little bit of a downhill assistance, but yeah, I pulled off, had a little check, and discovered that it was only firing on one cylinder, and it was the cylinder that I've always checked every time to make sure I've got a spark, and it's always been sparking beforehand, so I know it's been working previously. So as we had it running on one cylinder and I wasn't too far from home and could go country lanes, I decided to bear with it and ride it home on one cylinder. So it took a while. As I said, on the flat, on the straight, 30, 35 you could do. Any slight incline you were down to sort of second gear, and unfortunately I got into a village and the road was closed, the direct route to where I wanted to go, so I had to go all the way around the houses and up to another village, up to Herriard, you know, and sort of back round to get back round to Tweed Towers. And out of Upton Gray, that village up to Herriard, it's a real long uphill slog. Didn't think I was going to make it, but it made it all the way up, sort of first and second gear, chonking in and out sort of thing. Yeah, well, it was good practicing my gear changes, and then just kept riding through the villages to sort of heading back towards home. And then I sort of headed to a spot that I knew that I could pull in and have another look at it, because when I first noticed this, it was on a main road, so I was on a sort of country road. I could pull into a field entrance and have a very nice view. Should have taken a picnic really. Yeah, and just started going through the motions trying to find out what was going on, and it was then that I discovered that the left hand cylinder wasn't firing at all. So what I did do was sort of cut because everything's hardwired, so I did cut the lead to the condenser, you know, just in case that was dead shorting and just shorting out all the sparks. But even with that disconnected, it still wasn't sparking. So it's a known issue on these. It was the coil that had gone, and it was one of the original coils. One coil's been replaced, and yeah, they didn't replace the other one. Where I've been riding it in the hot weather and, you know, using it, I think that finally cooked it, and it's given up the ghost. So I've got to come up with a new ignition system to run it on. So I'm going to mount external coils outside rather than in the cases close to the engine where everything gets hot. This is a common thing done on the ADLER'S. Found a little, you know, article on it, sort of the Australian club, that's what they do. So I'm going to get some sort of Lucas 6-volt coils, mount them up under the tank, out the way so you can't see them. Probably mount the condensers there as well so they're out of the heat. So the only thing that's sort of coping with the heat is the voltage regulator for the dynamo. But as I couldn't get it to run, it was a case of had a nice long hill, rode it down the hill, bump started it, and then, you know, rode it the rest of the way home. Luckily most of it was there was one little climb through a tiny little sort of village. That wasn't too bad, and then, you know, there's a long run, gentle downhill all the way home sort of thing. So yeah, it got me home, you know, on one cylinder. So the ignition I've got to sort out, but the other thing is, as I said on, you know, earlier on, I suspect that the crank seals are, you know, getting a little bit tired. Working okay when the bike's cold, but when the bike's hot, you know, they're just not sealing well enough. So I've ordered some seals, they're coming, so I need to sort of start digging in to the engine to be able to remove those seals. So let's start on the gearbox side. And this is another problem I need to address. He's leaving his mark on the workshop floor, and yeah, when you park him up as well. I think some of it's coming from the gearbox. On the previous run, some of it I think was just coming from the left hand cylinder, sort of dripping out through the exhaust manifold nut down the front of the engine. But this is mainly gearbox oil, so need to address that. So we better go and drop the oil and start to investigate that. Okay, let's try and make some improvements to the oil tightness of the bike. Drain the oil first. All over the camera, and drop the sump plug. So as well as trying to cure the oil leaks coming from the gearbox and clutch cover area, I think some's coming through past the gear change shaft, some's coming through the clutch cover here, I think some on the gasket face down the bottom, not quite sure, and then some of it, I think, because this cylinder was misfiring and getting worse. I didn't really notice on the run until I sort of stopped it and then tried to restart it. I think also oil was getting blown out of here as well, because I couldn't work out every time I parked the bike up. I seem to be parking on somebody's oil leak, really strangely. Yeah, I think it was mine. So, another job to do, kickstart the sort of sprung ball that keeps the kickstart in place. That's got a bit weak, so there's a circlip on there. Oh, circlip, glad you could make it in German. Ein circlip. Yeah, so take that off and then take this off, and there should be a ball and a spring in there. Hopefully we can put a stronger spring on. That will improve that. So let's get that off. 9mm, of course, and then draw it all the way out. Cause oh no. Might be a cotter pin type of arrangement. Hang on. Let me get a tappy stick. That is tight. Let's wind it on a little bit and then wind it off so I've got maximum amount of threads engaged. Give it another little tap. Yeah, that's shifted. Wind it out a little bit more. There we go. A little bit more. To show you the faithful hound joining in a bit of oh, here he comes. All right, fella. Yes. Hey, you're being a good boy, are you? Yeah. Yes. Come on, it's nowhere near dinner time. Over there. Over there. Over there. Good boy. Good boy. Where were we before we got distracted by the dog? There we go. Cotter pin out. See? Americans, that's a cotter pin. Next we take the foot peg off. No, 10. God's sake. Let's remove the bolt all the way out, because it probably, yeah, locates the foot peg as well. Okay, that's it. Move it out. I think that'll be okay. I think that's far enough, just to give us a bit of clearance. In fact, we may have got away with leaving it where it was, but gives a bit more clearance. Clarence. And then the next is the gear change foot lever. Hoping we don't have to drop the exhaust off. Oh yeah, we can drop that down like that. So the bolts on all of these have to come all the way out, because they help locate the levers and pegs on their shafts. It's a lovely little thing, but unfortunately it ain't big enough, but we'll talk about that on another sort of test riding video. But you know, it's a nice casting. Okay, so I think the only other thing is we might need to get the clutch cable off of the lever and released. Okay, we're not playing running backwards and forwards to the garage for different spanners. Out with the King Dick metric adjustable. Okay. Still got a lot of spring tension on there. We'll see if we can unhook it when we take the cover off. And so we don't chew the screws up, put an impact driver on. Okay, just undo all these. very long ones at the front. And a tappy stick. Cool, stuck on there. Seems pretty solid. I'll take this off. I didn't think there was anything attached in there. Could be wrong. Right, so it's a very weird clutch arrangement on this, with the clutch on the end of the crankshaft. Making for an odd gear change. Okay, I might have to go and look at the parts list. This will all need new, well, I won't be able to get the gaskets for it, but they'll all need sealing up and some new gaskets made up. Okay. Just whiz these off and see what happens. I suspect the centre nut's got to come out. Unfortunately, the manual I've got for it just covers basic servicing. It doesn't really cover strip down and repair down to crankcase level. Yeah, there's a C-clip keeping the bearing in, and the nut there keeps all the clutch on. Yeah, I'm going to need to look at the parts list, see how that comes apart. Right, my suspicions were confirmed. I found a bit in the manual on servicing the clutch, and this nut indeed has to come off. And it says to, well, that comes off now. Let's get that split pin out. See? This isn't a cotter pin, this is a split pin. Cotter pin was the other thing. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Randall. Ease that off. What size are we running? What's the biggest one I got? 21? Oh, bigger than that. Right, 22. So I'll pop that on the old impact driver, give it a little, make sure we're going the right way. Oh yeah, it's sprung loaded. The Joy of Impact Drivers. It was the not so popular book following on from The Joy of Sex, you know, with that hairy man and lady on your dad's bookshelf. Okay, nut off, oil on the floor. Luckily put a paper down there. Let's whiz that off and tip it upside down. Oh yeah, and the gear change shaft goes all the way through to the other side. There we go. Yeah, somebody has been in here. We've got silicone sealant on here, so I think it has been leaking down the bottom of the gasket. Hopefully I've got enough gasket paper. Yeah, gasket shrunk back as well. We'll make a new gasket, see if we can unhook that cable. Oh yeah, should just be able to flip that. Right. No, it's got to come undone from the other end. Right, bear with me a minute. I think it's easier to remove the lever. There we go, that was easier. There we go. Okay, let's release that. And the outer bit that I've undone, and the plate. Right, let's go and clean that up and have a look at it later. And there we go, there's the clutch assembly. Again, I'll have to look into it, but I think you release the spring pressure. The springs are held in these little cups here, and then it looks like this plate unscrews off of the crankshaft there, or whatever that is, the clutch basket shaft. But what we need to do is we need to get into here. These covers need to be withdrawn, I think. I don't think you can pull out the crank seal without removing these. Might be wrong, they might just hold the bearing on the inside and the seal. There is something there, could be a rubber seal on the outside, but that would save a lot of work, because these can be, there's sort of, the aerial have sort of copied the same idea. These sort of cover the outer side of the crankcase on each side and hold the outer crank bearing and seal. But if we don't need to take that off, that'll be good. Maybe they, no, I was going to say maybe they've been changed before, but it looks like they've got like a silver sealant on them that looks very original. So they're probably the original ones, and but somebody has been in here at some time. We need to replace that split pin on the gearbox drive shaft there as well. That's been used a few times. I think it looks just like one tail of a split pin's been used there. But no, there you go. What a lovely looking thing. Shame it isn't on there rather than on here, because it does make for a, yeah, not very enjoyable gear change, which is a shame after going to all that effort. And this is the heavy duty engineering got on the inside here. This is the kickstart pawl, sort of tucked away there. That's not going to wear away too soon, is it? Yeah, and a chunky old spring as well. And then very similar to the Scott clutch, it's on a scroll, so it's on this bronze scroll here that rides up and down the gear on that outer assembly that I unscrewed. Didn't really need to, so I've got to work out how this all lines up and goes back together. There is a bit of adjustment by the look of it. Here you've got sort of multiple holes to move this plate around in relation to this scroll, so it's either on the second to last one or the second one, depending which way it needs to go. Yeah, it might be the second one. I think you will move it further around that way. The more worn it gets to get it closer to the clutch assembly, and then this obviously pushes against the clutch assembly to release the spring tension for the plates to spin round. Yeah, bearings all good. Okay, yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and the yeah, I mean the gasket's okay, but it's sort of shrunk a little bit, so it doesn't really like here. Look, it's only, you know, covering a small area. So if I've got some gasket paper big enough, we'll make another one, but it'll have to be a thin one. Yeah, so there you go. That's the outer thrust bearing assembly for the clutch. Gear change shaft goes all the way through the engine, kickstart assembly, and this pawl locates on the inner section of the gearbox primary drive gear in here. Okay, need to look at the parts list, work out how this comes apart. So there you go, that's where we're going to leave it. It's getting very windy, very dusty out there. Got all that clutch and gearbox assembly out in the open. I'm going to move it into the garage and work on it in there. I will, you know, I'll bring you along for the ride, but I've got to do a bit of research how that clutch assembly comes apart. Don't want to damage anything, so I'll go and do that and I've also got to order. I've ordered the crank seals already, but there's oil seals on the kickstart and the gear lever, and they're both, the gear lever one is leaking, and I think they're standard sizes. They've got the sizes stamped on them, so I'll phone up the company I'd order the crank seals from, who haven't posted them yet, and hopefully get a couple of those stuck in the package as well. So yeah, there you go, a little bit of ride out on the Adler. I mean, once we get it running and reliable, we'll have a proper, you know, like the BSA, a proper ride out, and, you know, views back and front and all the noise and ride past and all that kind of thing. But until then, we'll see you on another video. If you like the video, as usual, hit the like button, hit subscribe, click the bell so you know new videos are coming up, and we'll see you next time. All right, cheerio. What's that, Jenkins? Yeah, I did have to push it a little way. Yeah, it was hot. Yeah, I was sweating. Hello, welcome to Tweed's Garage. In this video, we're continuing. So with the carb back together, fuel filter on. Hello, welcome to Tweed's video. Time to do some sort of reliability runs to see if we can do